course you did. All right, here we go. This is recording now. We're going. It's happening. Oh, wait, it isn't because this isn't up yet. Hold on 1 second. Okay, here we go. All right, we got it. And it starts in 3, 2. Oh, nope, that didn't do it. Why? What happened? What did I break? Nope, it's all here. Shit.
We really pulled a boner on this one.
Here it goes. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Core. This is Core. I'm Scott Johnson with Bo Schwartz, John Jagger, and we're doing a show. I almost said Kristen Ashton and Kyle Ferguson. I get used to saying that on our D&D show. Oops. That would have been a mistake, except they're great, and we love them anyway. Anyway, hey, everybody. Welcome to Core. We're a day late. We apologize. It's Thursday. It's the 21st of November, 2019, and we're here to talk about the world of video games. Turns out a few things have happened since we last spoke, which was one Earth week ago. John was gone. He was ill. John, glad you're back. Glad you're feeling better.
I was here last week.
Oh,
it was 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Wait, what? Really? Hold on. In my head, me and Bo were the last two to do anything. Is that not true?
Nope. All three of us were here last week.
Shit.
That's right. He's right.
All right, I am screwed up. I don't know what. You know what? Time is a mess right now for me. Nothing makes sense.
But thank you. I'm glad you're happy that I'm feeling better. I feel 2 weeks better now.
Oh, good.
As a matter of fact.
Well, you look 1,000 times better, and you look the same as you always did. What am I saying? You don't look any different. But we're here. We're going to do video game talk, and there's lots to discuss. So let's do it. So, Half-Life turns out didn't die after all, and sitting around waiting for 3 is a thing you're still going to have to do, kind of. But they announced a new game in the Half-Life series this week. And it's called Half-Life Alyx.
Nope.
Alyx.
There you go.
That's the girl, right? From the games? Isn't that her?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. From Half-Life 2, the one that is your primary NPC companion.
I think I always thought it was pronounced Alyx. What does that say about me? I don't know what to say about that.
I think that's actually a fair interpretation.
It just looks like Alyx. A-L-Y-X. Alyx? Doesn't look like Alex to me. But anyway, she's cool, I guess. I don't know. It's been so long. Like, we never got episode 2 of the episodic stuff they were going to do.
Nope. We got 2.
No, I'm sorry, 3.
This is going to be the episode where Scott
sorry.
makes statements and Bo and I just gently go, nope.
No, that's totally fine. You should correct me. You're right. It's 3 we never got. 3 was the problem. Okay.
Yeah.
So because we never got 3, everybody's sitting around going, what's the deal? And so they never really sewed that up, and they've never announced Half-Life 3, and they just sit around printing Steam money all day, so nobody really thought they were going to do anything anytime soon. Well, apparently, they have been working hard on Half-Life Alyx, and it is a VR experience, which leaves me slightly torn. We'll get to that in a minute, but the trailer looked cool. It is set between Half-Life... Okay, but John, correct me again if this is wrong, but I believe it's set between Half-Life 1 and Half-Life 2. Do I have that right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep,
that's mine.
Spot on.
All right. It's got the face huggers and the whatnot going on. It looks very nice. It's running in Source Engine 2. It looks as nice as you expect it to look. It is 100% a VR game, not a game that you just happen to play in VR if you want to. It appears you will have to play it in VR. That is the only way you're going to play it. And I think we should talk about it, what we think of it, or at least what we think of the announcement, what we think of the idea of a VR-only Half-Life game, and does this lead us to think that maybe a proper Half-Life game is around the corner at some point? That sort of stuff. So I'll start with the most skeptical of us. That would be John Jagger. John, tell me how you feel about Half-Life Alyx.
Well, I think it's probably good because I feel like we should definitely end on a high note. It's a new Half-Life game. That's exciting. Yeah. And I certainly, have a long-standing love for that series. It's kind of the reason why I'm into PC gaming is the Half-Life series. So I owe a lot to that whole franchise and whole deal. But honestly, Half-Life Alyx, I am extremely skeptical about. And it's weird because sometimes they announce something that's kind of new and something that's kind of weird, like Google Stadia, and I see people going, man, this is gonna be crap. And I maybe deep down believe it, but I go, come on, let's give it a chance. Let's see what it'll be. And then sometimes there are other things that come out, like Half-Life Alyx, where everybody's like, oh my gosh. And I almost didn't put it on the news list because I was like, so what? Who cares? And then the more I saw people freaking out, I was like, oh, I guess maybe this is news people are excited about. But the reality is, for me is this. I want to live in a world where VR becomes something really cool and something that everybody has, and all of that. And I think that would be great if we could get there. I don't think this is the game that's going to do it. And I don't think Valve is like actively lying to us, but I do think that a lot of things people are inferring from this trailer is kind of fake and artificial. Things like, in the beginning of the trailer, we see this moment where Alyx is creeping around and she pushes aside a little like can of some kind and peers between some shelves, and that's amazing. Like, when you think about how VR works and all of that, the ability to do that is actually pretty impressive. Not a lot of games do that very smoothly, without a lot of jank, without a lot of things like flying around, or even just in general. But for the most part, I saw that and I was like, wait a minute, I need to see somebody actually playing this game, because that looks incredibly un-VR to me. And I have a feeling this is a cutscene. And then sure enough, later in the game, there's a point where there's a gun sitting on a car. She goes to pick it up, and it does the VR thing of just magnetizing to her hand. It looks like they're doing a little story device where her hand's got like probably some gravity gun business built into it to allow for an explanation of why that is. But it does the VR thing that you would expect it to do.
Right.
And I was like, okay, that's the VR I recognize, and that's the VR I know. And so there's a lot of things where it's just like, yeah, it seems like it's going to be a solid VR game, but that's not in and of itself exciting to me. The name Half-Life, at this point, I think we're allowed to have a modicum of like skepticism when it comes to that, because it is a series that promised us 3 follow-up chapters to Half-Life 2, only delivered 2, never gave us a 3. And I would even go so far as to say that if Valve felt that this game was the technical revolution that Half-Life 1 was, and then Half-Life 2 was when it came out, I think this game would be called Half-Life 3. And I think being called Half-Life Alyx maybe speaks to where they think realistically it falls.
That's the most sensible thing I've heard all day, actually, is the idea that it's got the Half-Life name on it means something, and it may mean great innovation in VR. It may be the greatest single-player VR game ever made in the end. It very well could be. In fact, part of me thinks it probably will be. This is Valve. They make an amazing
hard bar to clear.
Right. Not. You're right. It's not a hard bar to clear, because a lot of the stuff out there is janky and terrible, and maybe they'll get over those humps. But if it was truly the next generation Half-Life, the thing that was the ultimate in Half-Life, it would not be a middle chapter called Half-Life Alyx. It wouldn't be. It would be Half-Life 3 or something beyond that. So I think that's really
kill the meme.
Yeah, no, that's true.
They kill the legend.
Nobody wants to kill the meme. You kill the meme, you kill the man. And if you kill the man, you kill the... I don't know, I'm making all this up as I go.
So I think all I would say, just sort of my closing thought on it, is what I want from this game before I'm excited, before I jump on the hype train, definitely before I start shelling out money for VR, which is a huge ask in my opinion. But what I need is what they did back in Half-Life 2 days.
Yeah.
Because if you remember when they announced that game with like a weird tech demo. You were just in like a room and they're like, look what happens when we shoot wood. And everybody was like, oh my gosh. Like, for some people, this is going to sound really silly. Yeah. There was a time when they were like, look what happens when you walk behind this window. Yeah. And you were like, it distorts like a window. And then they were like, look what happens when you shoot this wood. I was like, it's like shooting wood. I've never done it, but I imagine that's exactly what it's like. And they were like, now look what happens when we shoot metal. And I was like, oh my, what is going on with this? This is amazing. Yeah. Like, it blew our minds. It was revolutionary at the time.
Yeah.
Now we take all that stuff for granted, but at the time we had never seen or experienced anything like that. And it exploded in a big way. I need that for this.
Yeah.
I need not a little punchy trailer. Supposedly this game is coming out in 4 months. Show me someone sitting down and playing it so that all the jank that in the back of my head I assume is there isn't there. So I can jump on that hype train with everybody else and be like, man, this looks legit.
Yeah.
But right now, with what they've shown so far, I mean, yeah, I'm excited to see a head crab, but not much else.
Yeah, Bo, are you? How do you land on this? I mean, I know you've always shown a little more interest in the
there's
VR
like
thing.
Tons of crappy games launched every year. I don't see why we have to be sad about or feel reservations about this.
I mean, it might be good.
I mean, everyone's entitled to their opinion, so I don't want to like make a thing out of it. I feel nothing but unbridled joy seeing everything I saw. This is amazing. I don't think it matters if it's called 3 or what it's called. And in the Jeff Keighley interview, they clarified that this wasn't them saying we need to make a Half-Life game, so let's do it. The people deserve it. They said they believe there's a lot of potential in VR. They are a VR product producer, and they had a lot of different like tech demos internally they were working on, and they built a 15-minute Half-Life 2 demo with some of the technology, and then they selected the Half-Life product because the pillars of that game are puzzles, exploration, combat, and narrative, sort of one after the other in a seamless, almost one level experience. That's why they picked it. So I think you're right in looking at this and being like, well, it isn't Half-Life 3, it isn't a sequel, it is meant to not be a tech demo, but it's meant to push the boundary in the same way that a new id Tech engine used to, and a new Doom, and make you buy thousands of dollars worth of new hardware. Like that's what that's what I've been waiting for in PC gaming. We've been plateaued for so long. I have a 12-year-old computer that still runs any game except for Anthem, because Anthem is very crappy.
Yeah.
That like, that I'm holding off on really plunking down a lot of money to see the next jump. And like, maybe this will fail. It's no promise it'll fail, but I'm excited to see a studio that really puts a polish on a product prove something. So I'm feeling celebratory about this, and just that it's Half-Life. Like it's Half-Life.
Yeah, it's nice.
It's
nice to get back there. I agree.
Half-Life.
I agree.
It's an institution in PC gaming.
I agree with that, but here's what I would say. I'm kind of in the middle of this, of the two opinions, because I agree with John on a lot of this. Like I was an early VR, like, oh God, this is the next step of everything. And I really think it is, but it has a long tail of its own, and it has to iterate and get smaller on the head and better in the eyes. And, it just has to improve and get to places like our phones did, or like any other tech that matures. It just isn't there yet. It's still very early days. And so part of me thinks that a game like this, even if it's incredible, is still going to be hamstrung by the fact that you got to wear a 10-pound thing on your head, and many of you are going to have to be tethered to use it the way you want to at the highest fidelity, and all of that stuff is still a hindrance. So to me, it's like saying, I don't know, it's a little bit like, imagine, we'll just say Red Dead Redemption, because it looks so amazing on PC. If you had Red Dead Redemption, but you released what it can do now, but you had to release it in 2004. Well, you would have had to have dumbed everything down to make it work. And I worry that we're in a place with VR where we're just not quite there with fidelity, with the sense of presence, with the lightness and smallness and compactness of the actual devices, the wirelessness of the devices. Like when all of that gets to a place that's iterated on over and over, and we're finally to, they're about the size of these glasses and I'm wearing them every day, then it's a whole new ball game. Like that's all we're gonna do.
Okay,
and it's gonna take us a while to get there.
We're not gonna be near. Like it's not. I think that's too much to put on the Half-Life game shoulders. And I also think that this game will have a Steam Workshop. It'll be moddable, and that we'll get a mouse and keyboard version maybe at some point of this game too. So they're marketing it as VR only, and I think that's the right move they have to make it a flagship thing. But I have no doubt this will be playable on a mouse and keyboard at some point. So I'm mainly focused on the fact that it's a new Half-Life game, and that they do have a good pedigree. They don't release a lot of them, but every time they've done a Portal or a Half-Life, it's been an event to celebrate at the time of its release, and something awesome. So
right.
But
I just don't feel any reservations about it.
Here's the thing that I think maybe explains how I feel about it. And I'm not saying that you're wrong or anything with where you're coming from, but like with what you just said, this was my reaction to it, and I think it pretty much sums up where I am. If they made this game and they were like, well, you can use mouse and keyboard for it, I don't think I'd want to play it. Like looking at it, it looks like, hey, you can play that daily quest unravel the strands puzzle from WoW, but in VR. And that might be super cool in VR, but now doing it with a mouse and keyboard, I don't know. That doesn't sound like, that doesn't get me excited. And I agree the Half-Life name means something and it has a lot of power behind it. But the thing I keep asking myself is why? Because back in the day when Half-Life came out, I could say why. There was no games that were like that with the kind of narrative setup. Even AI in general wasn't anywhere near that. The idea that the soldiers would throw a grenade to flush you out so that they could shoot at you. There are shooters today that don't do that level of advanced AI, and Half-Life was doing it years ago. With Half-Life 2, I know exactly why that was cool. Games didn't have physics. Games didn't look like Half-Life 2. Like, that changed gaming. And again, go back and watch that announce video, and I think people that weren't there at the time or weren't playing games before it would almost laugh at the things that we got excited about. I lost sleep over the announcement of Half-Life 2 because I was like, the world is changing.
Yeah.
And I would love for Half-Life Alyx to be that for VR. I'm just not sold on it yet. But that's what I associate with Half-Life, is changing the game, because I can't give it story. They couldn't even finish the story. Like, I can't say, like, oh, it's those characters in that story. Valve didn't care enough to finish it. So they don't have faith in it. Why should that be a linchpin for me? So for me, it's always about the tech. It's always about how that's going to change the world and change the industry. And maybe it will. And I would be very excited if it did, because I am kind of waiting for VR to take off. It's just I haven't seen anything yet to convince me otherwise.
So if this thing had been a let's just go back to 2016 or whenever it was when the first big headsets finally launched, the both the stuff from Oculus and I guess who was it, HTC Vives launched. If this would have been, if Valve was like way ahead of this and this was a like premier launch product for those things, I think you would be a lot more stoked. Because
probably, yeah,
you haven't already seen the dirge of fair to middling, shovelware that VR's sort of been known for. No one's really been able to crack that egg. Had that been a day one thing or somewhere near that top end, you probably would see it differently. I know I would. Like, I would feel differently today. And I'm not disappointed in what they showed. I think it looks rad, and I'm going to play it, assuming, and I haven't been able to get confirmation on this, but the Valve or the Oculus Quest, which will now soon, I don't know when this is supposed to happen, but soon that thing links to a PC and acts like a tethered PC thing. What they call it,
their
Oculus
press
Link.
release said all Steam VR headsets were all Steam compatible VR headsets.
Well,
I'm trying to remember the exact language, but basically, if it's a headset that Steam supports, you can play the game.
All right, so in theory, that'll be true of that, but the Link thing's not out yet, so I can't really confirm it. Because the current tethered Oculus is, yes, they do work with Steam Workshop and Steam VR, so that's not an issue. But I really want to use that to do it. If that ends up working, because that's my VR headset now, then I'll get this game, and I will play it, and I'm sure I'll enjoy it. So I guess what I'm saying is I'm not negative about the announcement, and the fact that Valve is even doing anything with the Half-Life world is super exciting to me. What I would have loved is if they said, Alyx is this middle thing. We're going to make this for VR. It's going to be super immersive. All between now and when Half-Life 3 comes out. The big 3 on the presentation, and then they're definitely doing 3. That would be something that would get me
But what
fired
would
up.
Half-Life 3 be? This is the thing
Well, this is 3.
Well,
it's not calling it 3. It's the third installment. Like,
yeah,
it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter what symbol is next to the brand thing. Like, did Doom Eternal need to be Doom 2 or it's not a sequel? It doesn't matter.
No,
ultimately.
but I don't know if I don't care about the number either, but I think that.
Well, let's spend 30 minutes talking about how Doom Eternal is going to be a pile of shit.
No, that'll be great. Doom Eternal is going to be awesome. And you're right. You're right about the number thing. I totally agree with you on that. I'm not saying that they need to give it to number to create that significance, but this is clearly not a mainline Half-Life game. If that's what this is intended to be, that's a weird. It
looks like that to me. I guess we're not, and the people aren't seeing the same thing. That's why there's dissonance. This looks like a capstone. It could potentially be a capstone moment for VR and for gaming.
Well, first of all, it's less money than a AAA game would cost, so that tells me it's probably $60. Shorter. It's $53 right now if you pre-order it.
Well, discounted, but $60.
Still, most brand new games don't see that kind of a discount for the first release. Now, this is Valve; they control Steam, so that's one thing. But the other thing that tells me that this isn't like meant to be a mainline game is you don't have the install base for it. In fact, you're barely there. There's mixed results in terms of whose numbers you believe, but statistically speaking, there's supposed to be like 3 million headsets in circulation, and not all of those are compatible with Steamworks or with Steam as a platform. So I don't know that Valve wants to make a game that only can go to a select group. Now, if their idea is, well, this will really blow VR up, well, then that's maybe a risk they're willing to take. But I can't see this as like, I mean, I'm happy to be proven wrong, and they also didn't present it as such. But I don't think this is meant to be the next big Half-Life game. I think this is meant to be a big Half-Life thing, but not the big next Half-Life game. If there ever was one, to your point, John, I don't know. I don't have a good answer for you either, because there's a reason they haven't made Half-Life 3 for all these years. And it isn't just that Steam makes tons of money. It's that Half-Life 3 has expectations attached to it that who the hell could ever reach those expectations, even Valve? Like, how did they even do it? So I agree with you there. But what I'm saying is it's really hard for me to see that this is, for all intents and purposes, Half-Life 3. I don't get that. Bo, counterpoint.
I mean, you were correct in that it is usually numbered stories happen chronologically in a certain order, right? Even Star Wars preserved that by naming the prequels the numbers before it. So,
right.
And since this takes place narratively between the two, it would not, if they called this 3, it wouldn't be in convention normally how we use numbers for this stuff. So,
But you think it could be the future of Half-Life, as kind of what you're saying, though?
I think it'd be a future of VR. I mean, some games come along and they're not the most popular games. They do something innovative, and that shit, like this game will likely be an open source game. I don't think Valve's a company that's going to release a game and like this and not put it on Steam Workshop and not let people work on it in the source engine, and not let some other companies take what they're like. In the interview that you listen to, they're just like, VR is not blowing up because the games aren't there, and they said they're taking it upon themselves to show you what you can do in this medium and to create tools to make this product. So even if you sit here and say like Alyx releases and you didn't like it, they're definitely, there's a lot of smart people working there. They're finally putting something out. This is their wheelhouse. This is maybe Artifact failed, but like they're known for having a good pedigree when it comes to this stuff. I think they know that the future of their product rests on releasing something amazing, even if just technically, for the health of VR development. So I think they are going to attempt to set a new bar, and that alone, even if they fail or not, is like exciting, because most companies want to make the new JPEG brawler or the new TFT. Like everything's regressive at what's popular in the video game industry. It's about, cute animations, which is great and stuff, but things that get me hyped for video gaming is when someone's like, you know what, we're going to do some crazy stuff. And I think VR doesn't translate the same way a flat screen video game experience does. Like this trailer looks really good for a VR trailer, because most VR trailers look bad and the experiences are actually better when you play them in VR. And this trailer looked really good. Even if you told me this is a mouse and keyboard game, I'd be like, oh, I'm super excited for this. It looks really good. So those are my thoughts, is that from a technical achievement standpoint, that's what is really exciting about the game, I think, and also looks cool.
I actually really agree with what Bo said about Valve being a good company to push things forward. And it's gonna sound like I'm being snarky with this comment. I swear I'm not. The only counters to that is they have failed with Steam boxes. They thought they were going to push Linux really hard and make that happen. Bo already mentioned Artifact. They've had some misses, sure, but there's a reason why earlier I said games didn't look the way they did until Half-Life 2. Like, when they plant their flag and they go, we're doing this, like, they have a tendency to really make changes. And I agree, whether Alyx sets the world on fire or not, there is a chance that its simple existence forces that change to ultimately happen. Like, it could still be the spark that causes it to happen.
Yeah,
and
it could. I hope it does. That would be great. I really do. Also, I just think it's still a little pricey for people to, to have this experience. They'll need to invest in a, PC of some quality, $1,500 or something, and then they're going to have to add on to that another $400-$500 up to $1,000, depending on what fidelity level they want for a VR headset. Like, they have to make an investment. That's usually not a problem if you buy a console, or you buy even the Quest, or you buy something that's like a standalone unit. You have a closed system of all known issues and hardware, and you just make games for it, and people buy it or they don't. In this case, you're asking a lot of people to get a lot of new hardware for a game that sure launches at $60, is on sale early for $53, but at the end of the day, you're going to spend somewhere between $600 and $2,000, depending on what you already have, for a game that Valve made. So I really hope it's that good that investment is worth it for people, because once they're done with that game and they've had their fill and they want to move to the next thing, I don't know what that next thing is to justify that cost for them. And I'm someone who's bought 2 different headsets during the last couple of generations, and I am a big fan of the tech moving forward. But I'm not being honest if I at least don't say the mass market appeal is going to require price, fidelity, and convenience to all merge at some point. They got to get closer to each other, or else you're really asking a lot to say spend $2,000 and make this work.
Right, because if I had that money to spend, I would buy a Nintendo Switch. I'd buy a new video card. I'd buy something else. I'd invest in a new PC to play, as we talked about, the same old experiences, but the ones I reliably enjoy, rather than gamble on a thing that to me still feels gimmicky and unproven.
Right.
And I know that's me saying I don't want to be on the cutting edge. I want the future to come, and then I'll come to it. I don't want to be the one that's like out there trailblazing, going, I discovered VR. I was the one who realized there was potential out there. Me.
Yeah.
I don't want that. I want VR to be real and be awesome and be great, and I will come to it when it is like that. And it is the job of Valve and other companies to convince me to either not do that and head over early, or to push that forward for the people maybe like Bo, who are more inclined to go for a unique experience and be a trailblazer in that regard.
Yeah.
And that's what I hope happens.
Honestly, I only need like a week of reviews. I just need to hear what people I trust say. And I don't mean just general reviews. I mean people I usually go to for this sort of thing, including friends who are super into VR. I'll text Jeff Kanata day one and say, dude, so how is it? Because he's all in and loves that stuff no matter what it is. And he'll be able to say, yeah, this is a real Half-Life game. It's awesome. Or not, and then I'll know. Like that will help me a lot, and that will help me make recommendations to other people. Nothing says we have to buy it day one, and also nothing says that this isn't the most amazing thing ever. It might be. Let's all hope it is. I'm stoked at that idea.
All right.
Conceptually,
I'm ready. There's some good stuff in here beyond the VR conversation that's just incredible.
Well, lay it out. Give me what's your favorite stuff.
Reloading, like the tactile. There's one point where you have a shotgun where you have to load the slug in. To do that, no more pressing R to reload and making it easy. You got to put that bullet in that gun. I love that. There's a point in there where it's at like the 50-second mark, because I'm watching it right now. You have to put your hand in this thing, and it looks like it's upgrading your left glove. And with your right hand, you're peering around the corner shooting these dudes, and the bullets are registering. So it's not just physics, but where they're hitting the enemies are reacting to the location they're being hit in a really cool and realistic way. Like one guy gets a gut shot and his hands sort of go down. He goes, like there's just a level of detail to what I'm seeing, which it's a hype trailer and it's 1 minute. It could just be the best 1 minute of what's being shown, But like that small little clip just makes me so stoked for the level of aesthetic attention and detail to the game product, let alone whether it's VR or not. I find the gloves look really awesome as well. They seem moddable, but I just love that there's this sense of what I think they're really going to lay into is this environmental interaction. So like in video games, you press your buttons and you do your things and you're limited by the keyboard. In life, I can look at all these objects around me and interact with them in any way. And it seems like they're going to go deep on the manipulating the environment in creative ways. And I'm just so excited for that because I haven't really seen that from a VR. Like you guys said, it was a lot of just janky stuff, and this looks really smooth and really, really detailed.
Well, the way you said environmental interaction made me think that that's a huge positive, because that's right in line with what Half-Life did to innovate, including Half-Life 1. I don't know how many people remember all the way back then, but when I was playing that game in 1998, what blew me away partially was a lot of objects in the game were deformable. They would move. They had some physics to them. It wasn't, I mean, by today's standards, it was ridiculous. But at the time, it was pretty out there, especially for a game that was based originally on the Doom 2 engine, heavily modified. But, you know, at the end of the day, that was just basically Doom 2 under the hood. Not Doom 2, Quake 2 is what I meant to say, not Doom.
Oh, Quake.
Quake 2. Yeah. Anyway, but as that game progressed, you would see things happen that you just didn't see in regular video games. Then 2 completely blew that out of the water. Like, physics became a real thing, and in a way that no game would be the same. Like, they may not be as gimmicky about how they use the physics in the world, but physics in the world suddenly mattered, and now that's just standard. Your argument's a good one. Like, that's carrying like the gun, that further.
The reload is not just the reload, but he's got to chamber it.
Right. He's got to grab it, pull it back.
He pulls it open, puts the bullet in, closes it. He's not done. He's got to chamber the bullet too. And you're going to have to do all that, I think, in the game. Like, it's going to be like actually preparing a gun for shooting.
Yeah.
And that's going to create a lot of tension, like Resident Evil tension, where you're like, the gun's jammed. Mr. X is after me. I don't know. I'm excited by this game.
Well, guys. Now you have me excited. Now you have me terrified to play it. So well done. Now I don't want Mr. X. Mr. X and I don't get along very well. Yeah.
I think everything John said though could be right. This could be just a glorified tech demo, and it's not that great. And certainly, you know, there's been a lot of play as Darth Vader, or play as Iron Man kind of stuff that's really just 10-minute experiences that are pretty shallow, and that's kind of what we're getting on the high end for VR. So I get it.
Also, John made a good, I want to mention this before we move on. John made a really interesting point a bit ago about how things you do in VR that are fun or that work in that environment don't work very well on a keyboard and mouse, and things that work on a keyboard and mouse or a controller don't work well in that environment. I just don't mean controlling, but like some of my favorite experiences of VR are things like Beat Saber, which would suck with a controller or a mouse and keyboard or any other traditional input. It would just be stupid. It's kind of like when you'd play Rock Band without the guitar or one of the other instruments. There's no point. You can play with a controller, but why the frick would you? Like, it's stupid. The whole idea was to have the guitar, and that made the experience work. VR's full of stuff like that. I have games that I really like that are just waves of enemies coming at me like I'm playing Space Invaders back in the day, except in beautiful 3D. But it's really fun because there's this visceral aiming, and there are guns in the world that I'm clicking, and I'm looking at my ammo by holding it here, and I see I'm almost out with this gun, and I'm ducking when the bullet comes. Like, that's why that works there. You take that into mouse and keyboard, yeah, it's a shooter, but it's the most boring shooter you ever played. So I have to think they know all of this, right? They've studied movement and what makes people sick and why, you know, teleportation seems to solve some of that. And I know they're not getting detailed, although the trailer shows are moving like regular. I have a lot of questions about movement because movement's not like movement in VR is not the same as movement in a first-person shooter with a mouse and keyboard. It just isn't the same. So what are they going to do? How do they tackle those things? Like, that's all going to be super interesting, and I kind of can't wait to see how it lands. Because if it's great, this could be a sea change, at least at the top end of, you know, people who can afford the setup. And VR is
it definitely looks like movement, though. It definitely looks like it's like, don't they have a little thumb pad for you to move around?
I mean, they do, but that's the thing that, see, everyone assumes that works well, and it can work, and it does for a lot of games, but it's super weird when you use a stick to turn a certain way. Your brain doesn't like it, and you get super nauseous. A lot of people do. So if you're moving forward, but then it's hard to explain. You're doing things your body.
Because you can turn your head.
Right, you're moving your head around.
In mouse and keyboard land, turning your head is the equivalent of just turning your whole body. But in VR land, you can actually turn your head,
right,
and not necessarily orient your body in that direction.
Right. So that's why they say, like, these setups where people are on treadmills with the round circles and they can go any direction they want. That's like the best way for recreating movement, because you're literally one-to-one recreating movement. Whereas if you're at a desk or you're standing and and the whole thing's a corridor, well, you're not going to walk a corridor. So what do you?
I did one of those VR rooms where they give you like an entire like giant room to run around in, so everything's one-to-one.
Yeah.
Like the only thing is and the game experience is programmed to take into account. So you walk a certain distance in the game, and then for story reasons you'll have to walk a certain distance in the other direction, so that you're never having to do a teleport or a reset, and it's complete one-to-one of your body. And that was a really cool experience.
Yeah.
Where I nearly fell over standing in the middle of a room with no danger, just because I thought I was out on a dangerous walkway and something popped up at me, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna fall."
Yeah, and that's that awesome. That's that awesome
works.
presence, right?
Yeah.
You feel like you're freaking there, and that's an amazing experience. The trick is when you're trying to create space that is more than just your room space. How do you navigate that and still keep you in it and create that presence? And nobody's really gotten that nailed. They've made little innovations here and there, but nobody's quite nailed it. The teleportation thing's interesting, and even Valve uses it for their little toy app thing that you just mess around in VR in. But you basically shoot, a reticle on the floor 20 feet that way, and then you teleport over there to move. And that gives you as much room to go anywhere you want at any time. But then that's not really the same visceral experience of I'm moving down this hallway, I'm crawling between these shelves, these guys are here now with guns, I need to fight them. That kind of endless virtual space is tricky. So I want to see how they handle that, because nobody's quite got that. Could Valve figure that out and make it amazing? Probably.
Maybe we just have to get used to it.
Did you play Half-Life VR? Sorry to interrupt. Sorry.
Was there a Half-Life VR?
There's a mod for Half-Life 2. I've played it in VR, and you use mouse and keyboard to aim your gun around, actually.
Oh, I never tried it.
Yeah, so that's movement with mouse and keyboard.
Yeah, but the same thing would be...
We were talking with Jeff that's what they based the initial design was just using Half-Life 2 assets in a new experience. So they really gave me the impression that it's I don't know if they're going to do anything innovative with the control, but it's not going to be a teleport scenario.
See, and I wouldn't want it to be, because that takes me out of it. I feel like I'm in a Star Trek game. Like, if you want me to feel like I'm...
Feels like a ride, right? Maybe?
Right. The same. It happens with... I played the VR version of when they updated No Man's Sky to support VR. The ship stuff's great. Like, flying around's perfect. Vehicles perfect. Vehicles make VR so much cooler, because the world's moving around you just like you're in a real car, right? It's just perfect. You got a cockpit, you have all the reference points and everything. No issues there. That stuff always has worked. But when you're on the ground, you're actually out there like hunting for stuff. To go anywhere, you gotta point 30 feet that way, click, teleport there, dig up some rocks, teleport over there. Like you lose that ability unless you make a game where you're in like a mech suit and now you're in a vehicle again. Vehicles are awesome in VR. They just work from the get-go. But feet on the ground. I think it's
probably a problem for No Man's Sky too, because the way I play that game is I run the terrain and shoot my mining laser and everything, so as not to lose valuable time. I'm multitasking.
Yeah.
Now I got to stop and mine.
You would hate it. You would hate it. And I didn't like it either. And I other than
I think you can do it with the stick though, right? If you opt to.
Yeah.
Is it optional?
Yeah, I think you can. I think you can still run in it if you want. But traditionally, people have said they feel sick. But that's what I was asking is, I wonder if that's a hurdle to get over. Like, and maybe not. I'm sure at some point someone would have said, "Hey, you do eventually get over this." But Like the thing I always think back to is I think when Nintendo 64 first came out and we got Mario 64 for the first time, and you'd watch kids or even you the first time you played it try to use that controller to play a 3D game in a way that we hadn't ever before. Nobody knew how to control Mario. Like there was a genuine fear of like, is this game even playable? Like he just keeps running in a circle for some reason. Every time I try and jump, it doesn't work. Now you go back and you look at it, and we've all gotten used to analog sticks and how it works and all of that. We're like, that's no problem. That's fine.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's an element of that to VR of just like, well, we've never done this before, so yeah, it takes a little getting used to, but we'll get there.
I think you're right. And I think maybe they're the ones to pull it off. Nintendo were the ones to make it work for 3D platformers. They changed the world with that. Like Mario 64
that's a
really important game.
Good, yeah, that's a really good reference too, because that's my frame of reference for starting to use a stick.
Oh yeah.
Too. Like,
yeah.
Even thinking like, oh, it's cool that it's 3D, but it looks kind of crappy. I don't think I'll play this. It's gimmicky. But then playing it for like 2 seconds, you're like, this is amazing.
Yeah, it changed
you know,
everything.
You don't know how to do it, but you get into it and you start learning that new language. Maybe that's what we're missing for VR.
Well, and Stoic Squirrel says, I never had a problem playing Mario 64. We're not saying we had a problem. That's the whole point. Nintendo said, here's this weird-ass controller. Here's an analog stick. You never heard of this before, and with very few exceptions. And here's this game with a mascot you all love. And we all went, oh, that looks like it might be nuts. How's that even going to work? A stick? Wait, a stick? Is that a joystick? Like, we didn't know. Then we got our hands on it and went, oh, we all knew how to. That's the point. We all suddenly knew how to do it. And that is breakthrough. That's what Valve needs to do with this. Or someone needs to do with VR. VR needs its breakthrough moment. And then we'll all look back and go, oh, remember how janky everything was until someone figured it out? And we'll just know. We'll sit down if it's this, we'll sit down, we'll put our thing on, and suddenly we're Alyx, and we're running around doing our shit, and we'll go, oh my gosh, this is it. We've done it. We've crested the hill. We've made it, you guys. We finally made it. And it was Valve who did it for us. I hope that's what happens.
Well, yeah. And we, 20 years from now, while we're, retired, maybe, hopefully.
Sure.
Well, and the young people are growing up. When they get their consoles, it'll be a must-have to have a VR compatibility, like a headset sold with your Xboxes and your PlayStation.
Or they'll just be standard. I honestly, that's the other thing is the N64 included a standard controller with an analog stick. There was no getting away from it. It wasn't an optional accessory. So at some point, that'll be the case, or the device itself is a VR standalone thing. Or if we're still happy to play different ways of playing games, it'll just be a part of your purchase. Otherwise, it'll always be an expensive accessory, and you'll have a broken player base. You'll have a divided player base.
Think of it this way. Alyx comes out. It's kind of like, it's kind of met as a game, but it finally shows people, gets people excited for the potential of what can actually be in a VR game. And Epic gets their hands on it and makes Fortnite VR, and then the world falls in love with it.
Or at least
because you could. I swear you could you could package poo and put Fortnite on it, and that shit will sell.
Yeah,
I mean, if they just win with VR on this product, then you never know. Epic and Valve might be partners in the future, and all we'll have is Fortnite.
I love it when a company
VR.
figures out the right way to do a thing. Like World of Warcraft's a great example of MMOs certainly existed before that, and then the things that inspired it, but it got it right, or it again crested that hill. That was the turning point. Same thing goes for lots of stuff, and I hope this is it because VR needs it badly. There are a few experiences in VR that are really amazing, but they are. It's Beat Saber and freaking Beat Saber.
Yeah.
Those are that's an amazing game, but it's also,
another thing that has a lot of potential too is the Strange Days-ification of whatever that medium's going to be. Because it's actually fun to watch full 360 video. I feel like that doesn't get enough airplay because you can't make Star Wars movies out of it.
Yeah.
But it's actually fun when people do things like there was an ice hockey one where it's just like a local small community ice hockey, and then you're there, teleported to some other town. There's real people there, and they feel very real because your eyes are being fooled into 3D that you're seeing 3D space in front of you, and it's a pleasant experience.
Yeah.
That doesn't get, and it's like, it's hard to sell just someone's home video, which is essentially what you're watching, a 360 home video. But it's really impactful when you watch those things. I think people who say there's a lot of potential in VR are right. I don't think it's smoke. I just think, like John's point about the 64 thing, we need to find a way, like find standards of making games and experiences for them that translate into a desire for people to want to have the VR and to use it and play it. So.
Yep. And the prices need to come down. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
Because you didn't have to pay, you weren't paying $900 for an N64 just to play Mario. That's a
Fortnite
big difference.
on VR, and all your problems will go away.
All your problems leave. What do you think about?
Set those grudges aside. Make the Epic Valve game store, Epic Steam,
The Epic Valve.
Yeah.
The Epic Steam store, and put Fortnite VR on there.
Epic Steam. That sounds pretty good. Or terrible, depending on your point of view.
Now that I think about this, we shouldn't be fighting. Tom Sweeney, Gabe Newell. Let's get you guys in a room. Let's get Tencent in there too, because they're involved.
Yeah. Make sure you get Tim Sweeney, though, not Tom. Tom Sweeney's kind of a dick.
Tim Sweeney.
Yeah.
Sorry. Sorry, Tim. Sorry. My apologies. But let's get Tim, Gabe, and the CEO or whoever of Tencent into a room together, and let's make Fortnite VR thing.
I heard that I don't know if this has been confirmed or not, but I heard that Gabe Newell's like 100% blind now. Can't see anything. Is that true? Do anyone know that?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I didn't hear that.
I don't know if it was like I don't know what it's from, like what caused it, but he had some degenerative ocular or something, and I guess
cataracts?
No, it wasn't cataracts, because cataracts you can fix.
Where did you hear this, Scott?
I
feel like that would be big news, and you're the only person I've ever heard say
Well,
this.
I think it was big news maybe a couple years ago, so that's why you don't hear a lot about it. But hold on, let's see.
Here's the latest on Gabe N. I wrote Gabe Newell blind, and the top article is man breaks into Valve, steals equipment, and Gabe N's minigun.
No, hold on.
He has a minigun? If he's blind, he shouldn't have a minigun. He'll shoot innocent people.
Let me find this. Where did I see it?
If anything came for Gabe Newell's eyes, whether it's a disease or a man, he would cut them.
I don't remember where I saw this. So don't take my word for it until I find it, everybody listening. I swear I heard this.
This would be easy to find. You should be able to type Gabe Newell eyes, and if it happened, it would be all over the place.
Yeah, I typed Gabe Newell blind and got nothing on Google News.
You wouldn't have to dig for this news. This isn't the kind of news.
No,
we live in a cycle where
I
people
agree.
make 80 articles about a girl selling her bathwater. Gabe Newell's eyes would hit the limit.
Where did I hear this then?
Yeah, he did some public speaking events recently, and he didn't strike me as blind. He did like a talk or an interview this year.
Easy something. Okay, 0% of people getting.
I think Daz Ladorn in the chat has it. He said it in a very official way, which makes me believe them.
Okay, suffered from Fuchs. I hope I'm saying that right. Dystrophy, a congenital disease which affects the cornea. But was cured with 2 cornea transplants in 2006 or 07. Maybe that's what I heard of. That was a long time ago. Oh, and there's a Forbes article about it. Let's see. I just want to make sure I'm not completely. This isn't so much about me correcting the record as it is wondering why I remember hearing this.
He says it's 2 years old, but it's actually an 8-year-old article.
Yeah, it's 2006 or 7.
February 9th, 2011 on that.
Okay. Maybe that's what I heard, but I thought I heard it more recently in that he had stepped way back because he couldn't see anymore.
We don't discriminate on the news here on Core. We do recent news and old news. We do it all.
Hold on.
All of it. I like the idea that Scott heard about the article and he was like, well, he's blind.
Oh, here it is. 2 years ago.
That was it.
So here I found it.
Right,
Gabe Newell was going blind. The founder of video game sellers Valve suffers from this condition. I have dead people eyes, he said at the time. Double cornea transplants in 2006 and 7 cured him and changed him utterly. Okay, so I guess he got it fixed. All right. Yeah, I don't know. Dude, I thought John was on, or that John wasn't here last week, so what do I know? No one listened to me. I don't know what I'm saying today. I thought that was still a thing. And I wasn't doing it like, you guys hear that Gabe Newell's blind? It's not like that. I'm just
No,
saying.
no. We're just discussing it. Sometimes you're just
Yeah,
like, oh, it's really sad to hear. You know,
I don't know.
I mean, I believed you at first, but then I just thought, no, we had to have heard about this. Like, this would have been big news.
Yeah, it would have been bigger recent news. I think that's what I
unless he
remember
kept it private. He's pretty private. Like we also don't know what other medical conditions Gabe is suffering from.
I was both right and wrong at the exact same time, which is not unusual for me. That happens to me a lot. All right, let's move on to Anthem. They claim they're doing a complete overhaul. Do you want to know if I believe that or not? Because I'm going to tell you whether you want to know it or not. I don't believe that. I think that they're not doing a full overhaul of anything. I think they're going to try to release the game in a better condition than it's in or has been. But there's no one's overhauling it. And because my definition of overhaul is starting from scratch. That's what you do. If you're going to redo your house, the only thing there is the structure. In a video game sense, what is that? A little bit of code, but you're going to redo everything else?
Right. What would you consider an overhaul in gaming then?
Well, you could argue Diablo 3's expansion was an overhaul. Loot 2.0.
Okay, so if you're going to consider the closing of the auction house, Loot 2.0 and all of that an overhaul, I would say that's not unreasonable to believe they're doing with Anthem.
That's possible, sure. But Diablo 3 was a way better game before that particular overhaul than Anthem is before its overhaul.
This sounds like you just don't want to like Anthem.
I want to like Anthem. I want Anthem to be awesome. I own Anthem. It's just sitting on my hard drive going, I want to play it. But it's poo. That game is poo. And if they want it to not be poo, they do have to overhaul it. I just don't believe they will. Because why would they? They're not making any money on this thing. For gamers, that game is kind of dead. Yeah. Most people who did it signed up for a month of Origin and then quit because it didn't live up to anything.
Some signed up for several months of Origin because they forgot to cancel.
Maybe on the back of people like John, they will actually get this done because they made a ton of money off that. I don't know.
World, everybody hearing my voice right now, if they overhaul Anthem and it's awesome, you're welcome. Yeah. I finance that business with my Origin subscription.
Everyone in the chat says, do you not consider Heroes 2.0 an overhaul? No, that's not an overhaul. That was just a big update.
It wasn't. I mean, they overhauled their financial plan.
Yeah.
A lot of it was
a
lot of it was monetization of the game. I mean, they updated it, but a lot of it was the stuff around the game.
Yeah. They overhauled parts of the game. In that case, the financial, the model of the game.
Yeah, I think overhaul fits for 2.0. I just don't think it was a comprehensive 2.0, but Heroes was a pretty good game even at that time.
But look, I think regardless of whether it's big or small or do this or that, I think there are two parts to this. One, supposedly they are deciding not to just drop Anthem and move on with their lives and pretend it didn't happen, which I think is cool.
I hope so.
I am definitely in the realm of fix it, not just let's pretend it didn't happen. And I admire a willingness to fix it, because I will say this: I played the beta. I basically got everything I wanted out of Anthem in the beta leading up to it coming out. I had some fun. Like, I know we've trashed that game a lot, and I think that's because the expectation versus disappointment drop is pretty vast, but I had a lot of fun. Flying around in that game was a really good time. Even when I was like, I think I'm sick of this game. I think this game sucks. Even when I was in that mode, I was like, yeah, but flying around's all right. Like, there was at least one little thing in there that I still felt good about.
Yeah, flying was cool. I like flying.
I think they can figure it out. I hope they do. Because I would rather live in a world where Anthem is a cool game that I can play with friends and have fun experiences with than a world where it's just that game we don't like to talk about because it was such a letdown.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it has a lot going for it. It's cool aesthetics that I really like. Being a big robot. Yeah. There's a lot of good stuff there. For me, the main difficulty was frame rate was bad and loading times were measured in minutes, like 10 minutes.
That was so bad. Oh my gosh, you guys. That stuff was really busted, and there's no reason to think they couldn't make something better out of all of that for sure. And I'm sure if I played it today, some of those things are better, but they just need to make a game.
You could trash on it having a bad story and having an uninteresting player hub, but if the game is good, then that stuff doesn't matter. Like, you know what I mean? If you're out doing missions and that's the fun part, like, you know, Warframe doesn't have the best story or the best hubs necessarily. It's, you know, it's fun to shoot things. So I feel like it doesn't have to fix everything either to be an appealing experience as well.
Yeah. It's something I would like to see. So this is good news if they can do it. I just am not feeling super confident in it, but I hope so. I hope so. Yeah, I own the damn thing.
We have Anubis in the chat writing fighting words.
Oh, D2 is greater than Warframe.
Greater than Warframe.
Did Diablo 2 they're saying, or Destiny 2?
No, Destiny 2.
Oh.
Hard disagree, but it's okay.
Well,
we each have a game we like to play.
The good news is Anubis is going to be your best friend when he hears where everybody landed on Half-Life Alyx. So,
okay. I wasn't watching. All I saw was D2 greater than Warframe.
Yeah, you two will be best buds in that regard. I'll earn Anubis's ire.
I'm a frame head over here.
Yeah.
I can't say enough good things.
Is that what they call themselves? Frame heads?
No, I just made that up. Oh. I don't know what they call themselves. Oh, Tenno. They probably call themselves Tenno. Like their con is called TennoCon, and I imagine if you go to TennoCon, you see your fellow nerds there from your clan. You go, "What up, Tenno?" And everyone's like, "Tenno!" That's kind of how it.
Wow.
Kind of how it goes.
Wow.
But I haven't gone.
Like Warframe
they're a Canadian company, and they're right down I can take a 5-hour train ride to go there. Hopefully next year I can make it.
You should go. I'd love to hear how that
somebody
goes.
can send me a ticket.
Yeah, we got any listeners over there.
Nudge. Yeah, somebody out there wants to hook me up.
We have some listeners. We have some listeners in the business. Sure, people could poke around for you.
Yeah. Just throwing that out there. Sorry to do that. I don't know if that's professional or not, but since we're talking about it,
if you can get a ticket, do it. Why not?
I like cover Tenno for our core and Frogbash community.
Yeah.
I wish I understood Warframe as well as I understand Destiny 2. If I had my understanding of Destiny 2 and how its systems work, with the game and everything else of Warframe, hot dang, I'd never play another game.
I wish I could disagree with that, but I agree with that.
Though, last year's trailer was pretty good.
Oh, it was amazing. It was so cool. I still don't quite know who the hell. Well, yeah, I mean, they have very obtuse lore, and that's okay for a shooter. Like, it's not that big a deal. But it's the systems I struggle with. Like the cards and the mods and I don't understand all that.
Do you know what the latest is in that? You can make a space guitar and play space guitar.
Holy shit.
There's a mini game that's just playing like weird Asian space robot ninja inspired guitar. It's like
wait a minute, does that mean there's a bard based frame? Because that's what I want.
I think so, actually. That probably would have gotten released alongside something like. Oh, there is one for sure. There's already one for a while where you have a little boombox that floats around with you.
Oh, I don't want to be like
enemies.
Shitty Lucio, like a cool.
It's
bard.
not. Okay,
all right. Lucio.
All right. There's like 100 Warframes. It's one for everyone.
Oh, I see what you're saying. You're not saying Lucio shitty. You're saying it would be a shitty Lucio knockoff if he ran around with.
Sure. Let's go.
Octavia.
Probably generate less emails.
I love
Octavia. Octavia is the name of the frame.
Okay. I like Lucio. I'm putting it out there.
I like what's the one? The one I play is the one that shoots spores everywhere. That's the one I like.
Ash?
Sporbo.
No,
Ash is not Ash.
I'll know it as soon as you say it.
Venom Lady. Oh,
yeah.
She has Molt. Molt is one of her.
Yeah, she's super great. She makes a little moldy clone of herself.
See, I didn't know there were different frames. I thought you just were
Saren.
Saren.
Yeah.
Like sarin gas? Like sarin gas. That's creepy.
Saryn.
So I thought those were all I thought you just picked a frame and then you weaponed and spec'd around whatever kind of spec you wanted. I didn't realize there were frames that were like.
No, they got cool.
No, so the way it works is that the Tenno, you're actually like a pod person.
Yeah.
Like you live in a chamber. You're just a little boy or girl.
Yeah, you're like a worm, right? You're like
no, you're human, but you control the frame telepathically.
Oh, okay.
And so you can switch up your frame because you're not just the frame. Like it's you telepathically controlling this.
How often can I change frames between games? That sort of thing?
Yeah. Yeah, you go. So the main hub is your own ship. Called was it an arbiter or Obiter. I can't remember what the name of it is. It has a name something close to that. But you can go to your loadout screen and switch up your frames, switch up all your weapons, mod all of your weapons and frames, get a pet. There's a robot pet, there's a cat pet, a dog pet, and then there's all kinds of stuff to do in your hub. But you can change frames at any time.
Okay.
And they're infinitely levelable. Well, not infinitely, but practically.
Just goes.
But why change frames when you can just play Saren?
Oh, I see.
Because I have a Rhino Prime, and
I want a Saren Prime so bad.
If you like never dying, play Rhino, because Rhino's basically indestructible. Your whole team will die, but you will still be around.
But Bo, here's the only thing I would add, and I'm gonna do it in a way to try and earn your agreement. I feel like playing Saren is like playing Exploding Fist Monk in Diablo 3. Because you do the infection on the one guy, and you kill him, and it spreads the infection to anyone that's around them. So you kill one person, and then like 80 people around him have it, and then you kill one more, and they just all explode. Like they can send a whole army at you, and you just go, and then...
What year was the last year you played?
Last year, probably.
Okay, all right. Yeah, because they update them, so I'm like, oh, if you played like 5 years ago, it might not work the same.
It's a living game. Yeah.
I have Saren, but I haven't played her for a long time. I like Rhino.
Yeah, that's good. Rhino's a big tanky guy, right? Like a big.
Yeah, he's a big tank, like
a Rhino.
Wrestler in the WWE. He's got weird arms.
He's like a launch frame too. There's lots of weird, strange new ones.
Well, Rhino. What was I gonna say? Rhino is like Iceland. Everyone thinks Iceland's covered in ice. There's some ice in cold areas, but it's mostly green. Everyone thinks Greenland is covered in green, but it's actually covered in ice. So the rhino is actually a nice animal, even though it's got a big horn and looks scary. It's the hippo you got to worry about. That thing will eat your face off.
I thought you were going to tell us which country was covered in rhino.
No,
It's a fact I learned from a Mighty Ducks movie that Scott just threw out there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I don't remember where I learned it, but I remember it was like a nature documentary, and they were just talking about how rhinos are just nice. They'll just come out, unless you're like threatening their young or something. They're pretty docile, but a hippo for no reason will just eat you and your family. They don't care. They're just like, yeah, I'm a rhino. And they look sweet and funny and big-faced with their big teeth. But they'll come and they'll chop you in half. They're the worst.
Well, if you ever want to feel just unbridled joy, just Google baby rhinos and just watch baby rhino videos and enjoy life.
Do they scrape their little horns on little trees and stuff like that?
They just run around. They just got that like happy, joyous baby animal run, and they're rhinos, so they're also good at it.
Yeah.
Baby hippos are also cute, for the record. But
baby everything's really. They're bred to be beautiful creatures.
Except babies.
Oh, they're cute.
Weird.
No, as soon as they come out of the chute, they look weird. But give them a few weeks, and they're fine after that. They start to settle into whatever they're going to be.
They start to adjust to their weird bodies.
Yeah, they look like lizard fish birds when they're born, but they quickly turn into cute, cuddly little babies. All right, let's talk about Path of Exile 2 real quick. It's not really a sequel. I would like everyone to quit calling it that. It is the same game. It's not going to be a new box. It's not a new game to play. It's Path of Exile is being updated to 2.0 basically, and they're also bringing it to mobile. Unless I think they had some caveat that they're trying to.
It's actually technically. Oh no, sorry. It's actually technically 4.0. It's the fourth version. You know, World of Warcraft has versions for the expansions. It's actually 4.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
but still, it's not like a new game. They're like if you wanted to have the comparison, Diablo 3 to 4 is literally a whole new platform. It's a whole new game. This is you're gonna log in, you're gonna log off on the day that it's still Path of Exile, and the next day you'll log in, assuming you paid for it, I suppose, or no, because it's a free game. It'll just be Path of Exile 2 from then on. So enjoy.
Your cosmetics will all be there, and it'll all be the same.
Right. So I don't know. I had a hard time getting too excited, mainly because it just looked like Path of Exile to me. What I wanted to see is, are they doing any kind of major changes to anything like the tech tree or, I don't know, systems, currencies?
Well, there are a lot of nuanced changes. The gem system looks like it's going to be easier to use, but still just as nuanced. I think they really played to their crowd. So if you're expecting a product that appeals to a wider mass, that's not what they're doing. Their entire existence is defined by the fact that Diablo 3 was a letdown, and that they want to continue that Diablo 2 vibe. But I don't know. There's stuff I really dislike about that game that are deal breakers in the long run for me, like no damage numbers. Really hate that.
I still can't believe those aren't in there. That's really weird that you wouldn't.
I know. It's at least an option to turn them on or off. It's just really enjoyable for those of us that like to watch numbers go by. Yeah. But like, I don't know. I would say it's a good game. The problem that I had with it, like just the overall reaction, was that before Diablo 4 was even announced, their business CEO or president or whatever was out there flexing like, no matter what Blizzard announces for Diablo 4, Path of Exile is going to deliver something better and sooner. And I was like, that's a lot of hype to build up. And I don't think, looks like what they're doing is really cool and good with Path, like the update. The update looks like it's very worthy of the hype for the people that play those games. But I don't think they're, I mean, you have to be foolish to have not seen Diablo 4 and went like, oh shit, I misspoke.
Yeah. Like it didn't feel very genuine when they said that to me. It just felt like, okay, guys. Sure.
Yeah. And people are just going to choose, this particular event brought to light the fact that Blizzard's had a rough year, and people do enjoy kicking Blizzard or not enjoy it. The people have been affected in negative ways this year, with Blizzard. But the one thing that is a complete farce is all the vitriol about Diablo Immortal. Like, if you don't like a mobile game, great, but they were crucified online by all those influencer and content creator people, and just the community in general. And well, Path of Exile coming to mobile.
We'll say,
and the silence is deafening.
And the same.
And everyone says, well, it's because they announced 4.0 or before we announced mobile game. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure if Blizzard had announced Diablo 4 and then Diablo Immortal, it would still have garnered a very negative reaction.
I mean, they still would have had as many people don't care about it. The thing people resented was that they thought that BlizzCon was the place to announce a mobile-only product in the Diablo universe, and that was going to go over well, and it didn't. So part of that is, I mean, I understand their point, but you're right. Like, all this silence about, and I'm actually excited about it, so I feel pretty good about it either way. But when Riot said we're bringing not Dota, what am I trying to say? League of Legends to mobile, I went, oh, sweet, that sounds great. But then in my head, I'm like, how come you're not all freaking out and being pissed? Why aren't we mad at them? Like, what's the problem? Because it wasn't an event?
And like, those Path of Exile people are like defined by Blizzard's a sellout company, 5% owned by Tencent, free Hong Kong. And meanwhile, like, controlling interests.
No, they are 100% owned by Tencent.
Yeah, okay, 100% owned company full of people who define themselves by the rejection of Blizzard. Go to a convention where they take the playbook of Blizzard and copy it, except for dropping F-bombs and having some cheeky humor, which Blizzard doesn't do. Yeah. So bit edgy, but no silence, no criticism, nothing but praise. And I'm like, okay. So this just confirms for me that there is a portion, a very loud, like not loud, very loud, very vocal portion of the community that surrounds Blizzard or has stuff to say about it. Not like this is news or revelation, but it just really pissed me off that they're just there to take a dump on Blizzard and not do,
that's their soul. It's
for the joy of doing it. It's not for some like, oh, I hate mobile. If it's someone else doing it, they're ambivalent. But if it's Blizzard doing it, then all of a sudden they've betrayed PC gaming. And this, I don't know where this narrative comes from. If this is like, I mean, put my conspiracy theory hat, and this is like the gamer press stoking the fire.
Sorry, we haven't played that in a while.
Yeah. For competitive sabotage, right? If I am a game company in competition with Blizzard, then I, happen to own some press sites somewhere, I would say, kind of stoke the fire and tell them to poop on a Diablo Immortal. What a travesty! And then a year later, say like, oh, can you, say some good stuff about our mobile game that's just like the Blizzard thing we did. Cool, you know, and then everyone's just getting manipulated. That's my conspiracy theory.
Yeah, I don't
think that
disagree with there. I think you're probably onto something, but
yeah.
What do I know?
And like, I like Blizzard as a company. I hate when I have bad things to say about them, but I feel like, this just makes me mad that the silence here for a Diablo game on mobile. Like, people should be up in arms. There should be a riot in New Zealand. Everyone's like, "Oh, it's great." Anyway, I'll stop it.
That's all right. I want to see a riot in New Zealand as well. Let's make that happen. Let's have Peter Jackson out in front and Tiki Wakiti or whatever his name is right behind him. All right.
Tiki Wakiti.
Taika Waititi. There. I always get it wrong, so I just lean into it. I can't help it. John, any thoughts on the Path of Exile? I don't think you care much about that game, so.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's a genre of game that I like, right?
Yeah.
Like, I love Diablo, I love that style of game, but there's always been a quality to the community, not the entire community before you write your emails, and the developers, that has always felt very much like the old Bender line to me. Fine, I'll go do my own with blackjack and hookers. Like, it just always felt like that was their development stance. Like, we'll do it ourselves. We'll do it better. It'll be even better than what you've got. Like, and it just comes across petty.
Yeah.
And as a result, I never checked into it. And that comes up every now and then for me, where I just feel like if they felt passionate about their game, I'd rather see that. But instead, I see that level of passion just being put into being competitive, and it just turns me off, and I'm just not interested at that point. So Path of Exile might be a game I love, but I've never given it a shot because I just don't like the attitude around it. It's like that company, I think it's the one who made Paladins or whatever, how they made that game that was exactly like Overwatch, and then when they kind of got called out on it, they were like, well, technically our game's been in development longer, so really they copied from us. And it's like, no, they freaking didn't. It looks exactly like Overwatch. I don't even like that game, but I'm gonna still come up and be like, what are you guys doing? You made a copy of that game and you're surprised people are turned off by it.
That's in Exile, and they made that, so the people have some reference. It's them, or it's Paladins, and they before that they made that MOBA behind the shoulder Greek god thing. What's that called? Smite.
Smite.
Yeah, Smite's theirs, and then and before that they did the what's the thing where you shot discs and you flew around a lot? Shooter. Tribes. They did the Tribes reboot that now they've abandoned, that I liked a lot, and I wish would have stayed going.
Man, I loved Tribes back in the day.
Tribes is
game
awesome.
Was so good.
And the new Tribes was really good, and they bailed on it and came and worked on the other thing. So anyway, I'm kind of with you on that. All right. Google Stadia came out. Very mixed feelings about it. We'll just briefly mention this. It's some people are saying, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe this is working. This is amazing." Other people are telling me, with no real grind or stone to grind, they're just like, "Yeah, it's kind of janky, and I have problems, and it's itchy, and I have amazing internet, so I don't know what the problem is." To others who have just had a terrible experience with it out of the box, I think it's too early to really say anything. None of us have it, so I can't really speak to it. But a lot of people are
that GIF did a lot. that GIF that you retweeted.
Oh, the guy with the jumping.
The guy pressing the space bar.
Yeah,
it had a deep impact on my impression, and it was very not good marketing.
Yeah, it's kind of a bummer because not everybody was having that. You know, I have some friends who ran it just great. I'm trying to think, who did I talk to? It had none of that latency and was playing just fine. But they would experience it in some places, not others. Like, it would run great on a phone with a controller paired with the phone, but when they tried to run it on their desktop, they were having trouble. The Chromecast thing would work well sometimes, and other times not. Honestly, it's a launch of a thing, so I'm not that surprised. The free tier plus all the other reasons to maybe get it are like a year away, so it just feels like this is like early, almost open beta, paid beta is what it feels like, and that's okay. It just needs to happen, and I'm not going to worry. But it's not. There's nothing about what's being said to the positive or negative that's making me want to jump at it. I'm just going to have to
Yeah.
But gotta wait. And I really gotta. I mean, if you're a gamer who really is interested in finding out what the next 5 years looks like, you are waiting for Microsoft to talk about xCloud. You are waiting for Sony and whatever their plans are. You need to know what everybody else is up to before you leap at this, because in some ways this is, this may be the least of the choices. This may be the one that you least want, because Microsoft's option may be this, or download the game and play it if you'd prefer to that way, or get the disc and have it. And if you have the disc and own it, maybe you can play through their xCloud thing on the go because you already own it. So they know that. So you just play it because you're already getting Game Pass. Like, there's so many questions I have about Microsoft's plans that I just feel like I have to wait before I would spend money on this or anything else for that matter. So we'll see. Google Stadia in the wild. Brian Dunaway got one. He seems mixed.
Yeah, I was going to say, it seemed like he had, compared to most, a relatively good experience, but still landed on mixed. So
yeah, even Patrick.
Maybe that's very telling.
Patrick was very pro on this before getting it. He's also someone in the Frog Pants zone that got it, and he basically said he kind of echoed this statement I heard earlier in the week, and I wish I knew the exact quote, so I'm paraphrasing, but somebody said Stadia is a lot like if you were driving on the freeway and the freeway's working great. You're getting to where you need to go. Things are going great, but you notice there's a lane like 3 or 4 lanes over that's being worked on, and it looks like that lane is going to be awesome. Very cool. You absolutely want to be a part of that lane, but you should stay in your lane until they're done working on that new lane. That's what I heard.
Okay.
That's the analogy. And I think that probably works. Like, let's let some of that stuff suss itself out. We talked about VR a lot today and how that needs to sort of find its way. I think that cloud gaming is not that different. Finally thing to mention, the Game Awards got their nominees, and it seems like everyone likes Death Stranding.
Well,
which is a very
Game
divided.
Seems to really like Death Stranding.
That's a very divided split thing right now. People I talk to love it or hate it. I don't know a lot of people who are just sort of okay with it. I don't know what that means, but whatever. I think it's also a little bit weird that when your awards are run by Jeff Keighley, and Jeff Keighley is like best friends with Hideo Kojima and actually appears in his game as an NPC, is that okay? I mean,
it's definitely a weird thing. I remember a while back, I think it was Giant Bomb had a feature talking about the creation of the game Bastion. And I remember when they got to their Game of the Year awards, they disqualified Bastion to win anything. Even though, by all accounts, a very good game,
yeah, it was.
They disqualified it from winning their big Game of the Year because they knew people involved in the creation of it. They did a whole behind-the-scenes thing with it. And here's the thing is, I think Jeff Keighley is, by all accounts, seems like a very thoughtful, very honest, very upfront, very passionate person. I have no reason to doubt or suspect Jeff Keighley of doing anything weird. But even though that's how I feel about him, when the big story is Death Stranding has the most nominations and it's the game he's in made by his buddy, you can't help but go,
And the praise is not universal about it.
No.
I think if people had to change their pants every time they played it because it was so good, we'd know. Right? You know, even though there's people that like it, it's like that argument between art house movies and not. Someone's like, "Oh, this art house movie's amazing." Meanwhile, the guy who just wants to watch Die Hard's like, "This is garbage."
Mm-hmm.
You know, it feels like either you're an appreciator of what this is,
yeah,
or you're just like, this isn't a good video game. It's
Sure.
just got high production values, and hipsters like it.
It's weird for weird's sake, some would say. And I like the weird, don't get me wrong, but I don't want to deliver packages for 20 hours. I just don't want to do it. And so
you could be someone that doesn't like the story of Metal Gear Solid, but still be like, yeah, I'm shooting and sneaking, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It always felt like the weird story was just frosting on an already pretty solid cake. No pun intended. Metal cake solid. But yeah, like this is different. It's very split, and I don't have a problem with it. I don't even have a problem with it winning. I just think it looks like a weird conflict of interest if he's up there and the award goes to Death Stranding, and you're in it, and you know the guy, and you've been dinking around all year with him and doing interviews and all this stuff. I just think it's a little fishy. Not that not even that I think anything untoward's happening, but it's the whole point of conflicts of interest. You're supposed to not have them. So it'd be really cool if he said, this year I'm going to host the event, but I am not going to take part in whatever, announcing it or
the nominations or the judging.
Right. And for these reasons, and like kind of recuse himself in a way. I think that would go a long way for me to not to actually care. Truth is, I don't actually care that much about those awards, so I don't know why I'm talking about it.
Most people don't. I think the reason it's getting attention is for this reason. And realistically, when I look down the list of things it got nominated for, yeah, I can probably see it. Like sure, Game of the Year. We had a weird year for games. Like it wouldn't surprise me that a high budget AAA game is on that list. Best game direction. No doubt about it. That's like game direction. The joke is that Kojima should be making movies. Not surprising that it's on there. Best narrative. Certainly going to be crazy and going to appeal to some, right?
Yeah.
Like as you go through these, you're like, yeah, I can see why it's there. I can see why it's there. Like there's nothing on there where you go, well, it shouldn't be on there for that. So I think it's probably fine. And
so are the full nomination lists out, John?
It is. I have it in front of me.
Oh,
It's out.
I just saw the memes. I didn't actually know the.
Yeah, it's out. Do you see the one where it's Jeff Keighley? It's photos. It's like it's laid out like a comic strip, and it's him. And the winner goes to, and then it flips to a hand holding a card that says.
Yeah, I posted that.
Oh, that was you. Yeah, it was Devil May Cry 5.
Seeing the memes, but I didn't really clue in that all the nominations were. I thought people were just making jokes.
Yeah, well, for those who didn't see that meme, the card he's holding says Devil May Cry 5, and then he looks up, pauses, and then says Death Stranding. So it's the memes are going around, the jokes are going around, and I am not accusing him of being dishonest about any of this. My main thing that I'd like to say right now is I think this stuff sucks because it's so subjective. They're things of their time. It's like when Forrest Gump beat Shawshank Redemption for Best Picture of the year. It came out. Nobody in their right mind thinks that Shawshank wasn't a better film than the other. And then I say that, and a million people will go, "Well, I do," and that's my point. Yeah. It's subjective and dumb. I don't know why we gotta rank stuff. My dad
wasn't in Shawshank Redemption, but my dad was in Forrest Gump.
Hold on, where was he in Forrest Gump? Who was he?
He's like some background extra at a truck.
That's amazing.
Listen, Scott, you make a good point, but it doesn't apply to Content Creator of the Year category. There's clearly one that's best. And which one do you think it is?
I think it's John Jagger.
Is it? Wait, a lot of these are things that I think, but would like.
Does anyone on that list have?
I only know two of the
Dr.
five.
Lupo.
Does anyone on that list have the 2013 Podcast Awards People's Choice Award? Do they have that?
Yeah, where's the best gaming podcast? It probably wouldn't be us.
They don't do that,
no.
But it's got to be Shroud that wins, right?
Oh, I thought you were just gonna go off a funny name, so I thought you were gonna vote for.
No, unfortunately, I actually know who Shroud and Courage are.
I like Shroud.
I do too.
I don't know why they're.
I use the word "unfortunately" in an unfortunate way because I didn't really mean to say that.
I don't like that category at all because all it is a promo for. The ones that don't need the promo. Like I would rather see it for up and comers that need the promo. Shroud needs no help. Exactly. He's good. He's all set.
Wait a minute. Nobody can wait to hear what the fresh indie game presented by Subway of the year is.
Subway, the sandwich people?
Yeah.
Oh my lord.
Wait, what? Where's that?
One of the right above Content Creator of the Year is the nominations for Fresh Indie Game presented by Subway Award.
Oh boy. Who's that? Tell me that. Who's the nominations?
Zam for Disco Elysium.
Okay.
Nomada Studio for Greece.
Okay.
Dead Toast Entertainment for My Friend Pedro.
Oh, that's a good game. I like that game.
Mobius Digital for Outer Wilds.
A cool game, yeah.
Mega Crit for Slay the Spire.
Very good game.
And House for Untitled Goose Game.
I'll bet that one wins.
But is it the freshest?
It's the freshest.
According to Subway.
I hate that stuff. I hate
it's presented by
categories.
Subway.
Yeah.
But you know it's called freshest because of Subway.
Yeah. Yeah.
If Subway wasn't there, this would have just been like best indie game.
I agree that it's obnoxious to take an award and then present it by a company. Period. Can you imagine the Oscars doing it? It's the best Oscars presented by
DiGiorno's Pizza.
Yeah, best male actor. But,
the freshest. No, you say the freshest new face in Hollywood by Subway. Like you could do the exact same thing. Like the
Rising Crust Star of the Year presented by DiGiorno.
Most refreshing performance by Coca-Cola. Yeah, you could go nuts with that. And I hope they never do. That's a terrible idea.
There's performance here. It's a little bullshit because Laura Bailey's on it, but it's for Gears 5.
She's good in Gears 5.
She should get it for that Jaina business. That was way better than anything she did in Gears.
That's true, but she did a great job in Gears 5.
She did.
Yeah. But I mean, like, we're talking about like best of the year. The best thing, one of the best things of the year was her as Jaina.
That's why these awards are bullshit.
Singing that song.
Awards are bullshit. They just are crap.
Yeah. I guess maybe that was last year.
Yeah, but still.
It was.
It was last year.
Okay.
But that's what aren't we counting for last year, or is it just this year?
I think Ashley Birch is a shoo-in for best performance this year.
Ashley Birch for which? What's the game?
For Outer Worlds.
As Parvati.
People really like this Parvati.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
She's a breakout character in that game.
She's very good.
For sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Either way, awards are dumb. All right, moving on.
I'm glad we talked about it.
Yeah, I'm glad we got to that. That's important stuff.
Good thing
I'm honestly just looking for.
Let's go ahead, Bo. What?
I was just looking for the jokes.
Oh. I'll play that again. I hit the worst possible time to play because everybody talked at once. All right, let's talk about quickly what we're playing. For PC, I've been playing the Red Dead Redemption 2. And loving every freaking second of that game. I love it. I played a lot more online as well. I think there's some real potential there for some super crazy fun. I wish more of my friends were joining me in there. A lot of PS4 player friends, but nobody. Well, not nobody, but I guess I need to just put the word out that I need to posse up with some people and go do some crazy stuff because Red Dead 2 is really great and was great last year on PS4, is great on PC now. And I'm very excited for mods and other stuff that the PC is getting, as well as the growth of Red Dead Online, which I think is actually a very cool thing so far. So loving it. Love the story. Love the jank. I love the open world brokenness half the time. I love falling off horses for no reason. I just love it. I just want to be playing it every minute of the day. Super into it right now. Dreaming about westerns and guns shooting and cool hats and horses and stuff. That's how much I've been doing that. And I've been playing Hearthstone Battlegrounds, listening to Bob there behind the counter tell me how great he thinks he is, and he's sure I'm going to do great this time. Having fun with that. I can't believe I'm playing Hearthstone in some form, but that's the form I prefer at the moment. And,
you're enjoying it?
I am enjoying it. I like it a lot. I mean, it's an auto battler. So
when you send those tweets out of when you hit 8th place, you sort of give me the impression that you don't like the game.
Oh no, I mean those are obviously being sarcastic about me, saying, "Look out, guys! Here I come. I'm a threat." I'm terrible at it. Okay, like all those games, auto chess, every iteration, everybody's version of that, team fight tactics, all that stuff. I am bad. It is not a game I glom to and immediately am good at. I just suck. But of all the implementations, I really like the Hearthstone one a lot. So I'm having the most fun with it. And I do stay in like second and third place until about halfway through the game, and then I just lose every time. I suck at the end game at that thing. And I don't know why. I don't quite understand why I'm so bad there, or why I just make bad decisions, but I do.
Because auto battlers are just random.
I mean, there is a lot of RNG, no question. Yeah. But I should...
All of them are. It's the reason I can't play them. I find them a little too randomy, but...
Yeah, they are. I like them, though. It's a fun little time killer, and it's a good toilet game.
Yeah.
So I like that. And they're faster games. I feel like I'm not there all day. It's not a full hour commitment every time I want to play around, which is nice.
Yeah. The Hearthstone one is quick.
Yeah, which is good. I think Blizzard, they have a design philosophy about, time matters, and I like that.
Turns out, I think overall it's being taken as a hit. Like, you're not just some weirdo that just likes it. Nobody else is excited by it.
No, I think people like it.
It's a big success as a surprise thing they tacked on at the end of a thick BlizzCon.
Yeah, nobody had Hearthstone Auto Battler on their bingo card. I didn't. That just seemed out of
That was
nowhere.
the most surprising moment in terms of announcements. So
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. I mean, everything else was either leaked, expected, or otherwise, a known property.
It's kind of normal.
And then that was
Well,
like,
they had a pretty
whoa.
sweet trailer for the new expansion pack, and we were pretty ho hum about it. I don't know how generally people felt. I'm pretty sure they expected it, and then it was like Battlegrounds. It's like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And people were super annoyed with our not a lot of people, but a few people were annoyed with our take when we did the live watch, because they were like, you guys just talked through the Hearthstone stuff. You didn't give the Hearthstone thing any time. But we did when they said, oh, and by the way, here's this Battlegrounds thing. We all shut up and listened, because that's interesting.
Yeah,
that's like new.
When they got to the part we might care about, not when they were talking about Galacron for 7 hours.
Yeah.
You're gonna be so much fun when you're like in your 80s.
I know, right? I want to live with John at the same care center when we're both in our late 80s.
You're just gonna be a bundle of joy at the age of 80.
I love that idea. All right. I've been playing those 2 games. John, you played Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order and beat it, and I'm very excited to hear what you thought of it. What'd you think of it?
I couldn't stop playing it. Man, this game's good. This game's really good.
Yes.
Now I have to give a slight disclaimer to it.
Okay.
If some technical issues bug you in games, maybe give it a little longer before you decide to jump in.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead, Bo.
So in one of the trailers, he takes out a lightsaber and he goes right with it, and he just kind of shows his hand extended out. I thought maybe his hand looked weird, and I know that's the kind of thing that might really bug you. So was there a lot of bad hands in the game? It's a very John question, because I know
I didn't notice a lot of bad hands, but one of the technical issues that I kept running into is just sometimes he just gets in a weird place physics-wise where he doesn't seem to know what to do with his body, and he's just like, maybe I'll try standing like a cowboy for a little bit, and he just like his legs will get real wide and wobbly, and I'm just like, is he about to fall? And then like he snaps back into normal animation. I'm like, oh nope, he's fine. It corrected itself, but like there's a lot of little weird just game glitchy things that happen here and there, but I didn't have anything that broke the game. Nothing that was terrible. I had some frame rate issues in some places that are kind of notorious for having it. I had some just weird animations. Occasionally there's one type of enemy that likes to lunge at you, but you can block the lunge, and I had one where it hit me and just shot straight up into the air, and I was just like, and then a couple seconds later it went thump and landed right down in front of me, and I chopped it in half with the lightsaber. Like there's some fun stuff in there. So there's a lot of issues.
Does the guy look, is it me, or is he supposed to look like some kid in the back of math class? He just looks like some kid, some scrub looking.
So he is based on an actual actor who's apparently from the show Shameless, is what I have heard.
Oh, that's why he's so familiar. I know who that is. All right.
And he does a fine job. Every time I complain about this main character, I get a bunch of people yelling at me, defending him. He's fine. Yes, he's likable. Congratulations. They designed protagonist, a guy that's not going to offend you in any way. And he'll get sad, but not too sad. And he'll get angry, but not too angry. And he'll always do the right thing. And he has drama, but not really. He's going to be fine.
Yeah.
Like, they did it. They created a generic character.
Mm-hmm.
This generic character's hair is red. Like, that's the big change up in this case.
Yeah.
He's fine. He's boring, but he does a great job. The voice acting's great. It's all fine.
It's like Ezra from Rebels, right?
Yes.
Ezra's like, it's like he's fine, but he's also not cool.
I would actually say Ezra has a progression where you don't like him, so you at least feel something to him being okay. This character's just neutral. He's just neutral all the time. The most I liked him was in the opening seconds when he's wearing like earbuds, I guess. He's listening to music, and I was like, man, I like his music. And then he takes them out, and that was it.
Was it the Mandalorian soundtrack?
No, but well, we
greatest.
don't need to go.
That's
off
the highlight
on that,
of my
but
week.
Yeah,
honestly.
it's pretty good. But here's the thing: that game has a ton of fantastic characters. So as much as I go a little too much on the protagonist Cal, all the other characters are awesome, including the villains. And they do a phenomenal job with all of them. So maybe what they were going for is we'll give you kind of a neutral character that you can do whatever you want with, and we'll put all the interesting characters around him. But the story in that game is really good. I got done with it and I couldn't wait for a sequel.
What do you think about
that?
What did you think about the helicopter sabers?
The helicopters? Oh, from the Inquisitors? They're fine.
I know they're in the game. Yeah.
They don't do anything really crazy with them at any time.
Okay.
So
it's just one of those weird things that they do with lightsabers that I don't know. I'm sure somebody's mad about it somewhere, but it is a bit weird, right? Have you seen this?
Yeah, I've seen
Rebels.
I've seen it.
Yeah. It seems a bit unnecessary. I don't know,
like it's a little showboaty.
I just wonder if there's a lot of it in the game and if it's a distraction or if it's fine.
Yeah. No, I get you.
They definitely like. It seems like their policy with lightsabers in this game is, I don't know, what if lightsabers did everything? Okay. Because, and I don't think it's a major spoiler, skip a couple seconds ahead if you don't want to know anything. He gets a double-bladed lightsaber. And then by the end of the game, he can split it and use it like two lightsabers as well.
I saw video that showed, but there's video out there that I think is pretty publicly in the trailer even that shows some of that.
Yeah.
No, that's cool. I need to just play it. I'm going to go do the Origin thing again and just play it. You've got me convinced. It seems like you really enjoyed it. And you said it took you, what, like 20 hours, something like that?
Yeah, probably a little more than that. I went on I couldn't put it down. I played until my body was in rebellion on Saturday night.
I love to hear that. That's always great.
Went to bed and was having that thing where you can still see the game even though your eyes are closed.
Oh, man.
I was just like, I woke up and I was like, no, I got to be responsible today. But what if I just played a little bit more? And just kept doing that. It's really cool. The voice work's really good. They got a lot of the actual actors for it. But, oh no, I can't talk about that. That's a spoiler.
Oh, okay.
Don't spoil it. I'm looking forward to this one. I may not play it right away, but I like everything I've heard and seen, and what you've said has really just emboldened me further. That feeling of like, I have to do responsible things, but must play.
I love a game that I get so into that I dream about it, except in the case of Red Dead Redemption, which I am playing and dreaming about. It's always about Sean, and you played enough, John, to know who Sean is, right? He's the Irish guy.
I've watched your streams, man.
Yeah, he is a pain in my ass because he's a cool character and I like him, but his accent gets in my head. And he's just in my dreams now. He's just in there, sitting around going, "Hey, what you doing?" You know, just a total like he's always going, Arthur Morgan, Arthur Morgan. Like he's just always yelling my name, wanting me to come do some mission for him. And he is in my head all the time. That guy.
I like to have things on while I'm playing games. I did this while I was playing Jedi Fallen Order, and I put on one of your streams, and I was mostly just focused on my game, but every now and then you would just yell at the top of your lungs, Arthur Morgan! And every time I was like, what the hell is going on?
There's something about him. I don't know what it is. He's a real Lucky Charmser type, but he's just, I don't know, gets in my head.
Okay, let's move past that. Here's the thing about Jedi Fallen Order.
Yes, please.
The only thing that bums me out about that game, no New Game Plus mode. It's a game where everything you find loot-wise is cosmetic.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing really changes your power or anything like that. So I got done with it and immediately wanted to just play it again on a higher difficulty level, but you lose everything. And you start the game, you only get between 2 and 3 lightsaber color choices. You got the blue, you got the green, and there's apparently a premium where you get orange, which I have through the subscription or whatever.
There's no yellow. I want a yellow. No yellow option.
So here's the thing: about 60% of the way through the game, you get additional color options.
Okay.
And that
cool.
Sounds
like dark side stuff. Don't spoil it for me.
And that's super cool. And that's where the colors that I wanted. And so yes, Scott, your yellow is in there. There's a bunch of color options.
Okay, cool. Cool.
So that's where your yellow lives. That's where my indigo lives, or cyan is another one I was a big fan of. But there's a bunch of them. And so I wanted to start the game and have all that stuff, and you can't. So the only reason to play it again is for a higher difficulty, which I did yesterday. I streamed some instead of us doing this show.
Yeah.
And had a good time. Yeah. But man, I wish that stuff carried over for some.
Can you tell me what do we know what the DLC plans are? If any?
Don't know yet, but they've got plenty of room for it. This could very easily be a series. And if they turn it into a series, like, I have some issues with this game. I've got a lot of problems with it, but a sequel to this game could be amazing. And whether you consider it a sin or great, this game introduces its best character, like, right near the end.
Yeah.
And it kind of does the Mass Effect thing, where in Mass Effect 2 you got Legion right before your final mission.
Oh, right.
And it does the same thing here, where you get you encounter a really awesome character right at the end. And I was like, I need to know more about this character. Why isn't this character the main character? Like, I just so into it. And I can't wait to see more of that. So I hope they do a sequel.
That's really good news. That's good news. The thing about Respawn is they make really, really, really good sequels. Like, Titanfall is arguably one of the best single-player games I ever played, ever. Titanfall 2, that is to say. Titanfall 1 had its moments, but 2 was amazing. So maybe this is Respawn doing that again with a sequel, and it'll just be the most amazing game ever. But now I'm going to play it. And it sounds like Bo will, too. We're just going to play this game.
You should. It's fantastic.
We like the Star War. We like a good Star War. And Mandalorian, also amazing. Everybody should watch that. That's an incredible one. Good new episode tomorrow.
Or tonight, if you're going to stay up till midnight because you can't wait.
Yeah, that's true. Bo, Overwatch, still having a good time?
Yeah, we're playing a lot of Overwatch. Having a good time playing it. Waiting for the new season of Diablo to start. I think I'm going to go hard on the paint.
Yeah.
And play that.
That's tomorrow.
Even though I got plenty of other games to play, it's kind of just what I want to do.
It's all right. It's the kind of crack you need. Is it tomorrow?
I bought Tomorrow's Elysium. Haven't run it yet.
Tomorrow's the new season, right? If I have that right.
Yeah, it's tomorrow. Okay. So probably gonna start playing that tomorrow.
I got on a very long business call yesterday and decided to fire up muted Diablo 3. And I thought it was a new season. I was going to start a new seasonal, but then I'm like, oh, this is still a few days off. So I just went and ran bounties for like a 2-hour call, and it was amazing. Just running bounties. It was great. Diablo 3, still
what class are you playing for your season, Bo?
I don't know yet. There's 2 new sets in this season. One for Monk, and I think one for the Satyr.
Oh, well, then you're playing Monk.
Crusader. But I'm probably going to play Monk because it's a new set for the class, and it's my favorite class.
Yeah, you love the Monk. You played like 50 monks. You're going to play Monk.
Even though, like, I need to spend some time playing... Like, there's classes I haven't played to end game in a meaningful way, like I have the other ones, right?
Yeah.
Demon Hunter, Witch Doctor, Crusader, or Satyr, as the cool kids say.
Who says Satyr? You keep
Demon
saying
Hunter.
Do they
I see
say
it
that?
online. Yeah, I was in Reddit.
People call it Satyr? Man, it's just one extra syllable. It should just go the whole way.
Dude, Satyrs are goatmen.
Yeah,
Stop
they're goat people.
That's Kezra. You're thinking of Satyrs.
Oh, what? Wait, what? Is that how you say it?
Like a Satyr place. Yeah.
I thought it was a Satyr. I've always thought it was a Satyr. Yeah, no, because in the Disney Hercules movie, they keep talking to Danny DeVito's Satyr character as Satyr. They say Satyr. Can I not trust Disney?
Well, at university when I took theater history, they called them Satyr plays because that's why it's known as satire, because Satyr was, you'd watch this serious play like the Oresteia or Sophocles' Rex, and then it'd be followed up by a comedy, which is a bunch of humans dressed as satyrs, like the goat men you're speaking of, with large dongs, like not paper mache, but whatever they made their dongs out of, and they make sex jokes, and that's a satire play. But we say satire. But
I didn't know that. Is that the origin?
That etymology.
That's crazy. I love that kind of stuff. Hold on.
There was
what I
one
learned
time
in my theater history class.
Yeah.
There was one time when I cried a little, and someone said, "Are you happy?" And I said, "No, Satyr."
You say, "Did anyone see a man come through here?" Yeah, he sat here, right here.
Satyr.
Yeah, sat here.
It's a satire.
Here, I'm going to play the way. This is how Merriam-Webster says it.
Satyr.
See, that's what I think. Satyr. Isn't it Satyr?
That's what I always said.
But isn't that the American dictionary? Because remember, I'm Canadian.
Well, here in America, we call them satyrs.
Well, this says chiefly British. Wait.
Merriam-Webster's?
Yeah, let me.
Yeah, maybe.
It's my new D&D character, chiefly British.
Satire.
He was so good in Ultima Online. I just loved chiefly British. He was
I
great.
think it's the case where satyr is not known as being wrong because so many people say it that way, but it's satire.
Oh, here it is in the Bible dictionary. Oh, never mind. They don't have a voice thing. Lame. How about
it just comes on, do you accept Jesus as your Lord?
That would be great. Okay, here it is. This is supposed to be legit.
Satyr.
I don't know, man. I always heard that too. Oh, wait, here's another version.
Satyrid.
What?
Satyr.
Satyrid.
Why is he adding id at the end of it?
I don't know. Okay, how about this? Oh, this has all gone wrong. Oh, British. Here we go. Oh, wait. Okay, dictionary.com has a British version of this. Satyr, British. Oh, no, they don't say it. They say it said the same. I don't know, dude.
Oh, my God. You should go to Wikipedia. Look up. Here, I'll give you the Wikipedia. Actually, that's satyr.
It's spelled S. Shit.
Satyr.
Yeah, Satyr.
Actually, just go to satyr. Anyway, so these pictures, on like vases and stuff.
Yeah.
Just go to satyr. Here's a link to satyr.
Oh
right?
my gosh! Look
Check
at the
out the
wiener on that.
See, I'm not lying about the dongs. Like satyrs are like horny jokesters.
What is that?
Satyrs.
John, you need to go to this thing and look at these giant. What is the one guy doing on the?
What's he doing with
there's
it?
this one guy who's balancing like a candle holder on his erect dong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's another one.
It's
It looks
like
he's...
he was smoking and then he felt like, well, my dong needs a hit too. So we'll.
And it's this guy who's like clearly redefining the term choking the chicken.
Oh my gosh!
Just in a constant state of pointing.
Yeah.
But look at that guy who's like...
He's going to town. He just got this and he's happy.
Wow.
Yeah, anyways, I wasn't lying to you, man.
You were not. Plays. You knew a lot about satyrs. Okay,
well, yeah, look at the balancing guy. He's like, well, I use it for reproduction, peeing, and holding up my notes for the theater.
I can't look at Danny DeVito the same anymore now because that's a satyr in that thing.
What does Danny DeVito have to do with that?
He's a satyr in Hercules. He's a satyr. He doesn't have
but it's PG in American Hollywood for that stuff. This is like Greeks. This was, back in the day when they celebrated Dionysus, the god of wine and orgies. That's a very common thing back then. Different life, different enlightened world.
I love this. I love this. Listen to this definition. This is amazing. Is a male nature spirit with ears and tails resembling those of a horse, as well as permanent exaggerated erections.
Permanent.
Yeah, permanent.
Doesn't
so if your erection lasts for 4 hours, consult a doctor unless you're a satyr.
This is great. They live in the woodlands, mountains, or pastures. They often seduce nymphs and mortal women alike, usually with little success. They are sometimes shown masturbating or engaging in bestiality. Fantastic. Fantastic. That's great. I'm never going to watch that Hercules movie.
You wondered what we would do special for episode 200? Here it is.
Oh, yeah, dude. Happy 200, everybody.
Keep in mind, this was my university education. You guys are just learning it, a couple of bros hanging around the campfire just chatting about funny shit. But I had to learn this and was tested on it.
You had to take a test.
Wow.
How much bestiality did your average Satyr
Take
engage in?
advantage of. Was it 1, 2, or 5 per week?
You
I
could
just like the-
possibly
yeah.
find them in A, forests, B, pastures.
You can see how this trope is something that we've had for thousands of years. Like there are movies of like really ugly dudes, like The Night at the Roxbury or whatever, trying to get with girls and failing because they're morons.
Yeah, and that's what these are supposed to be.
That's what the Satyrs were in that age. Was just like, oh, me see woman, look at me erection.
That was just what they called excessively horny dudes. They were just like, man, you're such a jackass. In fact,
That's
we're gonna
amazing.
put a horse tail on you
Yeah.
and a permanent erection.
Yep. You're never going to go away. You can balance stuff on it, though, so positive thoughts. All right. Well, I've learned a lot today about things I didn't expect to. So now quickly we'll learn about this.
That's a good question.
It's an email from a listener named Brian from Denver. This is not the Brian we usually think of from Denver, a different Brian. He says this. By the way, you use the contact link at frogpants.com/core. You can also send us voicemails at 801-471-0462. He says this. Hello, Scott. I don't do a lot of conversations on Twitter, so I hope you don't mind this email. The answer is, for the most part, no. I think there are a couple of older books, but that's it. Now, he's referring to my question some shows ago about Elder Scrolls books that aren't in the games. So in Elder Scrolls Online or Skyrim or, any Oblivion, whatever, those games have shelves full of books all over the place. And if you want, you can be a weirdo and go click on a book and read through the whole thing every time you find a book. And there's lots of cool, lore and, stuff in those things. But my question...
There's also the pillow book.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
There definitely is that. But I always had this question, do they have some good books about the world or the characters or whatever that are more like, like you'd get for Warhammer 40K or World of Warcraft has books or, that kind of thing. And he says... I think there are a couple of older books, but that's it. It's disappointing since I've read every Warcraft book there is, with the exception of Dawn of the Aspects series by Richard Knack. I wish there was an ES book or Elder Scrolls book because there is at least as much rich lore in the ES universe that would rival Warcraft. I agree. There's tons of it. The Elder Scrolls world needs a Christie Golden type to tackle the lore. As a parting thought, I've told you before, but as a fellow ESO WoW fan, it's cool to see you dipping your toe in ESO on occasion. I'm wrapping up the most recent Elsewhere quest line before heading back into Najdatar and Mechagon. I'll never fly with that rep grind. No, you will if you keep grinding. Anyway, Brian from Denver.
He's saying he's never going to get it.
Yeah, and he confirmed what I heard from a lot of sources that there are no, Elder Scrolls books per se, that are, here's a character, here's an arc of time where. I mean, there's plenty of that in the games. Tons of it in the games. And in ESO, a ridiculous amount in the games. Everything is VO'd and story told and all this crazy stuff, plus all the books. So it's a little weird they've never gone that far with it. But one can hope one day maybe they can do it. I just don't know where you'd start. You'd have to do... See, that's why like the 40K books are kind of cool because they'll pick an era and say, all right, the Horus Heresy stuff, let's do that. And it's just this arc of time where it's... they deal with this stuff and then they're done with it. And then they do one about the rise of the technomancers or whatever the hell they're called. And the time the 1,000-year emperor almost died. That's a cool book. They can do it. So I don't know why Elder Scrolls doesn't do it, but thank you for the email helping to clarify that, Brian. Thoughts, feelings? Would you guys read?
Do they have an RPG book?
I don't know. Maybe?
Actually, they just got in trouble legally for that. They found out that one of the Elder Scrolls RPG books was very blatantly ripping off an old D&D module.
Oh, Lord. Really?
Yeah, well, that...
I don't remember that. Is that news?
Yeah, I remember that. But it was what they did was more of a free insert into like a... what do you call it? Like a... What do you call it?
Module?
Not a module, but like a collector's edition version of something.
Oh yeah.
Essentially, like I don't think it was like they're trying to sell this, but it's still part of a product with a SKU. So
right.
Yeah. Anyways, I don't know. I don't know for the full details, but yes, they did get in trouble. That just seems like they hired a bad contractor.
Yeah.
And, because you're not going to know if you're reading something that's from 30 years ago in an obscure D&D book. But when you publish it, there are plenty of curators who who know when they're reading something from history. And I think it was so blatant that it was discovered. But that aside, if they took it seriously,
Yeah.
I mean, The Witcher has a tabletop RPG.
Yeah.
It's made by the same company that does the cyberpunk stuff.
Yeah.
And so there's nothing stopping. I feel like Bethesda kind of hates partners.
Yeah. I mean,
like,
you're right. Even like, so ZeniMax is actually the core development team and teams behind ESO, but they're owned by Bethesda.
ZeniMax?
Like Bethesda will buy you. They'll buy you and then use you, but they won't work with you if you're out. That's actually, I think I've heard that before. They just they're wary of partnerships, or
they won't go to Wizards of the Coast, or they won't go
Right.
to a smaller shop and say, we want to make an ESO RPG. You guys have the guys who are good at writing those books.
right.
Work with us. I think, yeah. And well, that's what you get. Somebody who's like, oh, I got to turn in this work. Shit, better copy.
Yep. It's all true.
Yeah.
Before we go, a quick bit of sad news. People may have already heard this, but Brad McQuaid was known as the foundational designer and visionary of EverQuest. This Vice article, for example, says there is no World of Warcraft without EverQuest and no EverQuest without McQuaid. Anyway, McQuaid passed away suddenly the other day at the age of only 51. That's pretty young. Not a lot of details, except they're pretty sad about it. He was working on a new MMO called Pantheon, which was meant to be a bit of a spiritual successor to EverQuest, with a lot of the former original EverQuest people, and that's just too young to go, man. That bums me out. So anyway, hope his family's okay, and the team there does okay without him, but cannot deny that dude's influence. There would have been, we'd live in a very different MMO world without that guy. So
yeah, I
For
played
sure.
a ton of EverQuest. Dude was very, very influential in games for me. So
yeah, he's been doing this for a really long time. But anyway, on that note, we will take our leave. Thank you all for listening, watching, being a part of the show. If you want to send in emails like Brian from Denver, it's really easy. Go to the website and just click that contact link. It's real easy, and we'll read it on the show. We'd love to do it. frogpants.com/core. You can also support what we do here by going to our Patreon at patreon.com/core. Thanks to everybody who already supports us there. If you haven't yet, please consider doing so. I mean, it's up to you, but we'd love it if you did. What else? Voicemails, 801-471-0462. You can follow us all on Twitter. Find the show at CorePod. John_Jagger for John. Bo Schwartz for Joe. Sorry. Joe. Bo Schwartz for Bo Schwartz. There. That's his name. It's two versions of it. Go find it. I'm also at Scott Johnson. There's more shows like this at frogpants.com. That's going to do it for us. For me, for John, for Bo, for all of you. We'll see you next time. This show is part of the Frog Pants Network.
Frog Pants Network.
Get more shows like this at frogpants.com. We did it.
hey,
Nice show. It was good.
It's a
Yeah.
two-hour show. Look at that.
yeah,
thing.
we gave him something real girthy for 200.
Yeah.
Wow.
You sounded like you were asking Alex Trebek for something.